Hiyori lives a regular middle school life until one heroic moment with zero planning ends in a bus accident. The result turns her life into a glitchy mess, where her soul randomly pops out of her body like a lagging character in Cyberpunk 2077. Two worlds suddenly exist side by side, with the near shore holding normal humans and the far shore crawling with phantoms and lost souls that really need therapy. The story begins with a girl, sitting in her classroom, enduring the bullying of her classmates, when she sees a phantom outside her classroom window. This girl prays for a miracle because her life is currently a depressing episode of 13 Reasons Why. Yato, a self-proclaimed god wearing a dirty tracksuit, hears her plea while standing on a water tank with his spirit weapon, Tamon. He flips a 5-yen coin and dives into battle to slice the monster into pieces, but the celebration ends quickly because Tamon quits her job immediately. She finds Yato to be a sweaty loser with the social standing of a Discord mod. Yato cries like a toddler who lost his iPad but eventually grants her a release from her contract. The jobless god spends his days spray painting his phone number on city walls like a sketchy bot on a Reddit thread. He eventually receives a request to find a missing cat named Milord. Hiyori is a kind-hearted high school girl who spots Yato chasing the cat into a busy street. She pushes the boy out of the way of a speeding bus and takes the hit herself. Hiyori wakes up in a hospital later that night to find Yato hiding under her covers. This homeless god actually made it into a girl's bed before you ever will in your entire life. Yato explains his divine status, but Hiyori almost calls the police on this tracksuit-wearing creep. Hiyori returns to school, but keeps falling into a deep sleep at random times. The accident caused her soul to slip out of her body, leaving her with a pink tail that makes her look like a low-budget mascot from Sanrio. She finds Yato again while he is being chased by another massive phantom. This useless idiot tries to fight without a weapon and almost gets eaten. Hiyori saves him with a powerful kick, and the duo escapes the monster, and Yato explains the truth about the spirit world. Hiyori begs for a way to fix her body so she can stop being a supernatural glitch. Yato agrees to help her with the tiny price of 5 yen. This pathetic hobo acts with the confidence of Tony Stark as he takes her money. Hiyori leaves her body at the worst times, including during a bath and gym class. Her friends, Ami and Yama, carry her empty shell to the nurse because she looks like a lagging character in a Ubisoft game. Hiyori wanders the city in her spirit form and calls Yato to complain about her condition. This homeless deity teleports to her side to prove he is actually a god. He explains that fixing her body is impossible without a spirit weapon. A random call for help forces him to disappear to clean a dirty bathroom for a single beer. Hiyori decides to find a weapon for Yato since he is too lazy to do it himself. She spots a massive cluster of monsters and assumes a friendly spirit must be hiding inside. Yato reappears, only to find Hiyori being chased by a giant phantom she accidentally summoned. The monster bites Yato and leaves a purple infection on his arm. This blight is a supernatural version of a nasty skin rash that eats away at gods. Yato warns Hiyori that her pink tail is actually a lifeline connecting her to her body. Cutting that cord would turn her into a permanent resident of the afterlife. The phantom returns to finish the job while the duo runs for their lives. Yato suddenly notices a small, pure spirit floating near a trash can. He realizes the spirit is a teenage boy and decides to claim it despite the inevitable puberty drama. This spirit transforms into a silver katana. Just then, a brief flashback of the boy's past life flashes before Yato's eyes and he collapses. The monster swallows them both, but Yato slices the beast open like a chef in a Benihana restaurant. This tracksuit-wearing idiot lands on the ground with tears in his eyes for the dead boy. The sword reverts into a blonde teenager named Yukine. The kid immediately refuses Yato's jacket because it smells like old gym socks and failure. Hiyori offers her scarf to the shivering boy instead. This dysfunctional family unit is now complete. Yato digs through a charity bin to find clothes for his new spirit weapon, Yukine, who wonders why he still feels cold or hunger despite being dead. Just then, a stray cat steals their lunch, so Yato calls Hiyori to beg for a free meal. The waitress at the restaurant ignores the two spirits because they belong to the far shore. Yato explains that humans naturally forget about gods and spirits almost instantly. Yukine admits he has no memories of his past life before becoming a weapon. This kid suddenly has a dirty thought about Hiyori, which causes Yato to feel a sharp pain in his neck. Yato scolds the boy because their minds and bodies are connected. The group teleports to a large shrine to meet Tenjin, the wealthy god of learning. Tenjin is basically the Jeff Bezos of the spirit world. He hires Yato to kill monsters lurking near a railway track. Mayu, who is Yato's former partner Tamon, leads them to the location. She explains that dark spirits are tricking students into committing suicide. Yato initially refuses to help because he believes people who want to die should be left alone. Hiyori gets angry at his cold attitude and tries to fight the monsters by herself. She quickly gets captured and tied to the tracks like a damsel in a silent Charlie Chaplin movie. Yato and Yukine arrive just in time to slice through the phantoms and save a schoolboy. The train passes safely while the spirits fade away. Yato claims he only helped because he wants spirits to value the life they lost. Hiyori realizes that all spirit weapons must have died prematurely while still wanting to live. The group returns to the shrine to rest for the night. Yato gives Yukine a tacky jacket with a cartoon mascot on it. This pathetic tracksuit god actually shows a tiny bit of kindness to the boy. A mysterious young girl watches them from the shadows as they fall asleep. This creepy child looks like she wandered out of the ring. Yato has a vivid dream about being a wealthy god with millions of followers, but Yukine kicks him down the stairs for being too loud. The morning starts with Hiyori bringing lunchboxes to the group to bribe Yato into fixing her soul problem. Yato ignores her request and shows off several lucky items that are clearly scams. He has the financial intelligence of a crypto bro buying a monkey picture. Hiyori gets angry and tells him to be a better role model for his new spirit weapon. Yato decides to introduce them to a pink-haired girl named Kafuku, whom he claims is his girlfriend. This girl is actually the god of poverty, and her protective partner Daikoku kicks Yato into a wall for being annoying. Daikoku is a tough guy who acts like a bodyguard for a K-pop idol. Kafuku quietly warns Hiyori that Yato is actually a very scary god with a dark past. The conversation is interrupted when Yato receives a phone call and drags everyone along. They teleport directly onto a man named Yusuke, who is trying to jump off a building. All four of them begin falling through the air like a glitchy scene from The Matrix. Yusuke explains that he went broke trying to impress a girl he met recently. The photo of the girl reveals it was actually Kafuku in disguise. Yato explains that Kafuku brings bad luck to everyone she touches because she is a walking curse from a Goosebumps book. Yusuke refuses to forget her, but Yato punches him for being a coward who wants to die. Yato uses Yukine to cut the bond between the human and the god to save his life. The group returns to Kafuku's house, where Daikoku pays Yato for his hard work. Hiyori stays behind to ask why Yato is considered dangerous. Kafuku reveals that Yato has killed both humans and spirits in his long history. This tracksuit-wearing loser was once a god of calamity who granted violent wishes to stay alive. Yato tells Hiyori to trust Kafuku and Daikoku if he ever disappears. Later, a mysterious girl named the Stray appears to Yukine by a lake. She reveals that she is also Yato's weapon and she will always be waiting for him. Yato teaches Yukine how to create a borderline, which is a spiritual shield that keeps monsters away. The young spirit creates a perfect barrier on his first try, proving he has more talent than his bum of a master. Hiyori decides to take Yukine to her house because she thinks Yato is too irresponsible to raise a child. This girl is basically running a one-woman foster care system for ghosts. Yato follows them anyway and breaks into Hiyori's house to steal her snacks like a greedy raccoon. He warns Hiyori that Yukine is actually terrified of the dark. This fear becomes clear when Yukine crawls into Hiyori's room at night to escape the shadows. The boy tries to touch her, but Yato appears and stops him instantly. Bishamonten, the powerful goddess of war, appears in the city to hunt phantoms. She is a blonde powerhouse who looks like she walked off of Victoria's Secret runway with a bazooka. The next morning, Hiyori takes Yukine shopping to buy him new clothes. Yukine tries to steal a skateboard because he thinks being dead means he can ignore the law. He acts like a bratty kid who thinks he is in Grand Theft Auto. Yato explains to Hiyori that every time Yukine sins, Yato feels a sharp sting of pain. Gods use this connection to learn the difference between right and wrong. Yato mentions that gods can do anything they want, but spirit weapons eventually face punishment for their actions. The sun begins to set, and Yukine finds a small girl crying on a street corner. This girl is a fresh spirit who died in a car accident and is waiting for her mother. Yukine stays with her, even though he is scared of the dark. Dark phantoms emerge from the shadows and trick the girl into joining them. Yukine tries to save her with his borderline, but the girl is already infected by the corruption. Yato arrives and rescues Hiyori and Yukine from the growing darkness. Yukine begs Yato to save the little girl, But the situation is already hopeless. The child has turned into a monster like a zombie from The Last of Us. Yato slashes through the phantom to release her soul from the pain. Yukine cries as he watches his new friend vanish forever. Yukine lies in bed, feeling depressed because Yato forced him to kill the ghost of the little girl. Hiyori leaves cookies and hot chocolate outside his door to cheer him up, but the boy is too traumatized to eat. He imagines monsters inside the food and runs away to the local mall to vent his anger. This kid decides to steal a skateboard to express his frustration, which causes a sharp pain to stab Yato's body. Hiyori looks for him everywhere, while her friends tease her about her secret boyfriend. This girl is working harder to find a dead kid than your parents ever did to find your lost potential. Yato stops Yukine in the street and asks where the expensive skateboard came from. Yukine lies and says Hiyori bought it, and the girl backs up his story to protect him. Their conversation is cut short when the sky turns dark and the legendary war goddess Bishamon appears. She is riding a giant lion and looks like a high-fashion version of a Final Fantasy boss. Bishamon attacks Yato with a whip and a pair of twin pistols because she holds a massive grudge against him. Every single piece of her outfit is actually a spirit weapon. A navigator named Kazuma acts as her living GPS system to track Yato's movements through the city. Hiyori runs to Kafuku and Daikoku to beg for help because Yato is being hunted like a level 1 player in an open-world survival game. The battle intensifies as Yato and Yukine hide in an alleyway to catch their breath. Yukine asks if the rumors are true about Yato murdering Bishamon's previous weapons in the past. Yato admits to the crime, which makes Yukine feel even more insecure about his position. Kafuku arrives just in time to stop the execution by opening a massive spiritual hole in the sky. Thousands of monsters pour out of the vent like zombies in World War Z. A mysterious girl named Nora appears from the shadows to protect Yato from the lion's claws. She slices the beast's eye and gives Yato a chance to escape the slaughter. Kazuma tells Bishamon to retreat before the monsters consume her entire army. This calm navigator bows to Yato before leaving, suggesting they have a secret history. Yato tries to wash the infection off his arm later that night, but the blight refuses to fade. Nora offers herself to him again, acting like a toxic ex-girlfriend who refuses to leave the group chat. Bishamon discusses the spiritual hole Kafuku opened with her loyal navigator, Kazuma. This war goddess is a certified blonde bombshell who clearly skipped her anger management classes. Kazuma criticizes her for letting personal hatred for Yato cloud her judgment during the battle. They head out to hunt the remaining monsters together. Hiyori visits Yato and discovers that Yukine went to the god Tenjin to beg for a new master. This kid wants to quit his job like a disgruntled intern at a toxic startup. Yato spends his time at a spring trying to wash away the infection on his skin. He remembers Nora telling him to abandon Yukine and return to his violent ways. Hiyori accidentally runs into Bishamon on a rooftop and freezes in terror. Kazuma notices the girl but hides her presence from his master. He warns Hiyori to stay away from the war goddess for her own safety. This living compass reveals that Yato is actually his benefactor despite being Bishamon's enemy. Kazuma tells Hiyori that Yukine is killing Yato with his bad thoughts and must be dealt with immediately. Hiyori realizes that Yato's reputation as a god of calamity is true. Yato finds Yukine complaining about being rejected by Tenjin. They take a boring job at a convenience store that makes Yukine even more angry. Kafuku and Daikoku arrive to offer Yato a real monster hunting job instead. Yukine feels insecure because he thinks Yato prefers the mysterious girl Nora. This bratty teenager tries to steal money from a charity box and runs away into the city. Hiyori follows Yato and begs him to treat the boy with more kindness. Nora finds Yukine in an alley and mocks his eyes, comparing them to bland fruit. She acts like a high school mean girl from a Netflix drama. A giant monster appears and forces Yato to bring Yukine into battle. Yukine's mind is filled with jealousy and doubt, which makes his sword form dull and useless. Yato has to use holy water to sharpen the blade enough to kill the beast. This tracksuit-wearing loser manages to survive another day, but his body is covered in more infection. Nora watches from the shadows, and there a mysterious man named Reibo appears. He is a Walmart version of a Dark Lord who thinks Yato has become too soft and weak to be respected. Hiyori is in the girls' bathroom when Yato and Yukine suddenly teleport next to her. This tracksuit-wearing weirdo claims they were summoned by a student named Manabu, who is hiding from bullies. Hiyori beats Yato with a toilet paper roll because he has the privacy boundaries of a stalker in a thriller movie. Manabu explains his misery, and Yukine feels a surge of jealousy because he remembers being bullied too. Yato hands the boy a mysterious object and tells him to use it only if he wants to stop being human. Yukine wanders the school halls and finds a jacket that triggers faint memories of his past life. This kid watches a group of students laughing together and realizes he will never be part of their world again. He is a ghostly third wheel in the game of life. Meanwhile, the mighty Bishamon visits Kafuku to ask for a prediction about where new monster vents will open. Kafuku is a pink-haired harbinger of doom who looks like a bubblegum pop star. She gives the locations, but threatens the war goddess with a massive disaster if she hurts Yato. Daikoku falls in love with his master all over again after seeing her act like a mafia boss from The Godfather. Manabu eventually corners his bully while clutching a box cutter. The dark phantom whispers in his ear and tries to turn him into a murderer. This middle schooler actually stood up to his problems, while you are still hiding from yours. Manabu remembers Yato's warning and chooses to stay human by dropping the weapon. Yato is impressed by the boy's strength and tells him he only needs one true friend to survive. Hiyori feels relieved, but the peace is short-lived. Yukine sits outside the school and watches the sunset with tears in his eyes. He feels invisible and lonely, which pushes him toward a breaking point. The boy picks up a metal bat and begins smashing every window in the school building. He looks like a tiny, angry version of Harley Quinn. Every shattered glass pane sends a wave of agony through Yato's body. The infection on the god's skin turns into a deadly blight that causes him to collapse. Hiyori finds Yato dying on the ground and carries him to the house of Kafuku for help. But there, Daikoku creates a spiritual wall to block them from entering. He refuses to let a blighted god inside because the infection is more contagious than a virus in a zombie apocalypse. He finally lets Hiyori inside to be cleansed, but the news for Yato is grim. Kafuku explains that Yukine must undergo a painful ritual called an ablution or Yato will perish. This ritual requires 3 spirit weapons to trap the sinner in a triangular prison of light. Daikoku rushes to Tenjin's shrine to beg for volunteers for this deadly version of a high school detention. Mayu agrees to help her old master, but finding a third participant is nearly impossible. Most spirits are too scared to risk their lives for a homeless god with the credit score of a gumball machine. Hiyori realizes the situation is desperate and runs to the territory of Yato's greatest enemy. She shouts for Kazuma at Bishamon's shrine like a crazed fan at a Taylor Swift concert. Kazuma sneaks out to help because he secretly owes Yato a massive debt. He arrives at Kafuku's house just as Yukine tries to run away from his problems. This bratty teenager insists he has done nothing wrong until Daikoku forces him to remove his shirt. The boy's back is covered in disgusting eyes and purple rot from his many sins. The 3 spirits begin the ritual, and Yukine screams as the light burns his soul. This kid is suffering through an exorcism while you are just suffering through another lonely Saturday night. Yukine's anger causes him to transform into a monster with wings and glowing red eyes. He blames his behavior on the unfairness of being dead while others get to live. He acts like a villain from a mid-2000s emo music video. The pain becomes so intense that the spirit weapons almost give up on the boy. Hiyori stands up and screams at Yukine to stop being a selfish coward. She tells him that Yato has endured all this agony like a father protecting a son. Yato uses his last bit of strength to remind Yukine that his name is a gift that connects him to the world. Yukine finally breaks down and confesses to every theft and lie he committed. The corruption vanishes instantly as he repents for his crimes. The group survives the night and gathers in the morning sun. Hiyori hugs her 2 favorite idiots while crying with relief. This dysfunctional circus troupe is finally whole again. Yukine starts a part-time job, working for Daikoku to pay back the money he stole during his rebellious phase. This kid actually wants to study and asks Hiyori for her old school books. Yato and Hiyori cry tears of joy because the bratty teenager finally decided to be productive. Kafuku ruins the mood by demanding 10 million yen from Hiyori for the medical help she provided. Yato manages to get a discount, but Hiyori still owes a fortune because of this tracksuit-wearing deadbeat. She is currently drowning in debt while you are just drowning in snacks and bad life choices. Yato visits Tenjin to express his gratitude, but the 2 gods end up arguing like a divorced couple on a reality show. Mayu explains to the group that spirit weapons can be banished for hurting their masters. She warns Yukine that his previous behavior was a dangerous infection. Yato eventually asks Tenjin for advice on how to fix Hiyori's soul problem once and for all. Tenjin suggests that Yato should cut his ties with the girl entirely. He believes her connection to a god makes her focus too much on the spirit world. This news troubles Yato because he doesn't want to lose his only friend. Hiyori invites the duo to a New Year's shrine visit to celebrate the holiday. Rabo and Nora watch Hiyori from a high rooftop like stalkers in a psychological thriller. Rabo is a god of calamity who looks like a gothic anime villain from the early 2000s. Hiyori arrives at the shrine and slips out of her body to follow a figure she thinks is Yato. She realizes too late that she has walked into a trap. Nora summons a pack of wolf monsters to hunt the girl through the forest. Hiyori survives the night by using her wrestling moves to dodge the beasts. Rabo watches the entire scene to analyze Yato's strength from a distance. He acts like a calculating mastermind from Death Note. Yato and Yukine finish a different job fighting a scorpion monster and rush to find Hiyori. They finally locate her as the sun begins to rise. The reunion turns into a nightmare when Hiyori looks at them with blank eyes. She has no idea who they are or why they are talking to her. Nora has stolen her memories of the spirit world as part of a twisted game. This purple-eyed girl is more toxic than a radioactive waste dump. Yato stands frozen in shock as he realizes his best friend has forgotten him completely. Yato and Yukine panic as they try to understand why Hiyori has forgotten them completely. The stray appears suddenly and reveals that she stole the girl's memories. This creepy spirit girl has returned to her old master, Rabo, who is a forgotten god of calamity. Rabo attacks Yato immediately to force him back into his old, violent ways. This villain looks like a low-budget Sephiroth from a PS2 game. Yato struggles to keep up with the onslaught because he is out of practice. The duo leaves the scene after making a dark deal. Nora promises to return the memories only if Yato can defeat Rabo in a fight to the death. Yato reveals that he and Rabo were once partners who killed humans and gods for money. This tracksuit god used to be a genuine menace, like John Wick, before he started working for 5 yen. Yato feels conflicted about whether he should even restore the memories. He worries that Hiyori would be safer if she stayed away from the dangerous spirit world forever. Yukine decides to help by showing Hiyori a picture book of all their adventures together. The boy tries his best to spark her mind, but the situation is getting worse. Hiyori soon forgets Yukine as well, leaving her soul like an empty shell. This poor girl is losing her mind faster than you lose your dignity on a first date. Nora reveals that Hiyori will eventually become a mindless vessel if her memories do not return soon. Yato and Yukine realize they have no choice but to enter a final battle. They resolve to save their friend, even if it means facing a terrifying enemy from the past. The two visit Hiyori one last time to promise they will fix everything. Hiyori reaches out and grabs Yato's sleeve just as he prepares to teleport away. The sudden movement causes her to fall to the ground as the boys vanish into thin air. She is left alone and confused while her heroes head toward a deadly boss fight that looks like a Dark Souls encounter. Rabo waits at his crumbling shrine and reflects on his dark history as a god of calamity. Yato and Yukine arrive for the final showdown, but they are shocked to find that Hiyori followed them. The tracksuit-wearing hobo tells her to run, but he immediately gets trapped in a magical water bubble. Hiyori pulls him out of the trap like a lifeguard saving a drowning puppy. Yato begins a fierce duel with Rabo, who keeps demanding the return of the cold-blooded killer he once knew. This villain is obsessed with the past like a toxic ex-boyfriend stalking a social media profile. Rabo tries to kill Hiyori during the fight, but Yato and Yukine block the strike just in time. The battle takes a cruel turn when Rabo reveals the glowing orb containing Hiyori's memories. He tosses it into the air and slices it into a million pieces before Yato can reach it. Hiyori collapses into a mindless state, which turns Yato into a beast mode version of himself. He attacks with a fury that belongs in a God of War boss fight. Rabo responds by absorbing a dark storm and merging with a group of monsters to become a giant freak. This monster actually has more interesting layers than your personality does. A massive landslide threatens to crush Hiyori, but Yato rescues her at the last second. The familiar scent of Yato's sweaty jersey acts like a supernatural smelling salt and awakens her memories. Hiyori kicks Yato out of sheer embarrassment once she realizes what is happening. Rabo captures her again, but Yato tells Yukine to trust his aim. He explains that a god decides exactly who his blade will cut. They unleash a powerful attack that destroys the monsters inside Rabo and frees the girl. Yato delivers the final strike and watches his old partner fall to the ground. Rabo admits he used a curse to stay alive just so he could be killed by the only person who remembered him. His body turns to dust as the other gods sense his departure. Nora retreats into the shadows to report her failure to a mysterious figure she calls father. This creepy girl is clearly setting up a sequel more dramatic than a Marvel post-credits scene. Hiyori refuses to cut her ties with the spirit world because she wants to stay with her friends forever. She chooses a life of danger over a normal human existence. Yato accepts her request and promises to make her wish come true for the price of 5 yen. And that is it for today, you losers. Go get some life now. But before that, if you have enjoyed this recap, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time.